What's up, guys? Welcome back to the review space, and today we take a look at five figures from the Kinnikuman manga slash anime series. Actually, it's probably closer to the anime, but Kinnikuman was basically a comic manga that started in the late 70s, like 1979, and it's still going on to this day, I believe. And then they had an anime from the early to mid 80s, and then they had sort of a sequel in the late 90s. Okay, so let's begin. Let's take a closer look at the main character, Kinnikuman. Ugh. Check that out. Okay, so this dude is the main character, you know what I'm saying? He's like the main protagonist of the series. Basically, he's a ripoff of Ultraman. Not really a ripoff, but more of a parody than anything else. Especially, you can tell with this kind of spiky mohawk thing design on the top of his head. Ultraman was basically a really popular Japanese... It was a show. I mean, I watched some Ultraman as a kid, but it was basically a live action thing. It was almost like... The way they shot it was kind of like Godzilla, where it was like a guy in a suit, and they basically were giants fighting each other. It's pretty cool. But this is basically Kinnikuman. He's really wacky looking. He's got really big, thick, circle-looking lips, and his design is very traditional-looking pro wrestler. I mean, he doesn't even have knee pads or elbow pads. He just has wristbands and frickin' boots, and that's about it. Tights. The figure itself isn't really that big either. I mean, he comes in a really cool stand. Let me just take it off. This figure is maybe about 3 inches, so it's not really that... It's not a large figure at all. It does look pretty cool. I mean, it's very faithful to the actual anime look. Especially the colors. I mean, I like the detail. But these Japanese figures are just a little bit different. Especially with articulation. Let me show you. Alright. Normally, an American figure would kind of have... The articulation would be in the joints, and it would be ball jointed. Usually, you can bend the elbows and the knees. These ones are a little bit different. It's almost like they were just put together. Like, you can actually remove the hands, and it's almost like, kind of like Legos or Mega Bloks. Like his head, you can twist his head, you know, twist it like that. His hand from the shoulder can sort of rotate like this, but it's not ball jointed, so you can't really move it up and down. From the elbow, you can sort of twist it, I think. Should be able to. And from the wrist, you should also be able to twist it, rotate it rather. He's got an ab crunch like this. Can't rotate the hips. And his legs, you can just kind of rotate them from the hips, but it's just kind of awkward. It's really that V shape. That's the only way it rotates. So it doesn't actually, you can't move it back and forth normally. It's sort of similar to the modern day Hasbro figures now. He also has a separation from his thighs, so you can kind of rotate that. And his knees, you can bend his knees. This is what I'm talking about. Look at that. His leg just came apart right here. This is crazy. I think his leg just broke. Wow. That's not good. This is kind of a really flimsy... These figures are so flimsy. Kinnikuman's leg just freaking tore off. That's horrible. Oh boy. Well, that sucks. The reason I'm not so surprised is because it happened already. It happened with... What's his name? One of the other characters. But there it is. Kinnikuman figure is only about 3 inches. I love his stand though. It's really cool. I love the flames around it. It's pretty sweet. I like the shiny yellowish design on it. And it actually has a kind of a see-through effect, or a crystalline effect rather. So it's kind of cool that way. And there's some Japanese writing on the back, that official Japanese writing. Oh, but it's just, oh my god, man, his, I'm not joking you, his leg just came off. So, kind of off to a bad start with this review. That sucks. So we have a one-legged Kinnikuman figure. And I can't put that back in. It looks like the actual, the thing that connected the two joints, it's actually broken. Alright, let's move on. Alright, next figure we have, this guy is Ramen Man. And he's from China, apparently. Each one of these figures have kind of a gimmick, you know, it's kind of like pro wrestling. That's what the anime is about, or the manga. It's basically a sort of a parody on pro wrestling, and each of the characters have kind of a gimmick. So his is like a kung fu technician type of guy. He used to wrestle with a mask, I believe. He was known as Mongol Man. But this whole thing just kind of reminds me of Dragon Ball, though. I love they really have cool stands. Look at this. It's a pretty sweet dragon stand. The detail is pretty sweet, actually. Love the colors. It's very reminiscent of Dragon Ball. The actual dragon from Dragon Ball. Pretty cool. Now Ramen Man himself has orange pants. Kind of looks like Goku, actually. Got a very lean build. And let's remove him. Alright. Just like Kinnikuman, he's about 3 inches only in the actual figure, 3-inch height, which isn't large, actually. They're actually quite small. Pretty cool detail, though. Now, articulation is relatively limited. You can rotate the head. Oh, I just removed his torso from his lower body. But not to worry, because you can actually see there's a hole in there. You can actually insert that there and put them back together. So that's kind of cool. And you can sort of rotate him a little bit. His now his part here, his arm, whoops. This guy's just, wow, these figures are just falling apart. His hair just came off. Oh my god, this ponytail. These figures suck. These are terrible. Wow. Ugh. But anyway, his left hand at the shoulder can sort of move like that. So he can kind of move it, and then you can sort of also articulate his arm from the shoulder tip like this. And his right arm, you can rotate his elbow. And you can also rotate the hands from the wrists. But you can't do anything with his legs. You can't bend at the knees, you can't twist the... You can't twist his ankles. Although you can move his left foot up and down, so that's something. The figures do have holes at the bottom of the feet, so you can put them on the stand, obviously, but so far the best parts have been the actual stands. They're really, really cool. Unfortunately, you can't really use them with any other figures. Like, you can't use them with Marvel figures or, you know, those 4-inch figs. They're just not designed to... They're specifically made for these actual figures. Alright, let's look at another figure. Let's take a look at this guy. Okay, this guy is, I believe, he is Warsman. Warsman. He's actually a pretty cool looking character too. I mean, I remember this guy from the anime very vaguely. But he's got claws on his left hand, but that's actually his bear claws. I guess because he's from Russia, the Soviet Union. And that's his gimmick, like the Russian bear kind of thing. But he's a robot, I think. And right now, I think he's doing his screwdriver technique. Like, you can see the effect around him. You can actually remove this thing from the figure. There you go. And it's just a clear plastic of a really cool, like, wind effect, I guess. Some kind of screwdriver thing. The figure itself is pretty well detailed, just like the other ones. Again, this one's only about 3 inches in height. As far as articulation, from the shoulders, you can move it up and down. Can't really do much from the elbows, like, it's pretty much fixed. From the head, he can nod his head or really move it backwards like this. Kinda. It just moves back and forth. Can't really twist it. From the waist, he can kind of move it like that, kind of pivot a little bit. From the legs, his legs are okay. Like, oh, whoops. Now his foot, his right foot just came off, but I believe you can pop that back in. There you go. So at least that's fine for now. So as far as posability, they're not that great. Again, it's more limited than anything else. It's just the way they're made, the way that their joints are strangely kind of put together. The way they bend is just, it's already in a pose anyway, and it's so limited to begin with that you can only have so many poses. But this one is alright. You should be able to make him stand on his own. It's just that, I mean, honestly, you just can't expect to do much with this figure. But he's pretty cool. I mean, just the actual design of the figure is pretty decent. Alright, so that's Warsman. Now let's move on to the, what I think are probably the coolest figures. Alright. So this guy is Buffalo Man. And he's an obvious villain, heel, bad guy. He's actually the biggest out of these figures. He's the tallest. Now, he's from Spain, storyline-wise. He's actually based on Bruiser Brody, if you can believe it. The 80s wrestler who, at the time, you know, in the mid-80s, he was like the highest paid wrestler in the world, Bruiser Brody. He's probably one of the most well-known brawler type of wrestlers. He ended up actually, well, he got killed in the late 80s in Puerto Rico, I believe. And this character, Buffalo Man, is apparently based on him. So, like, comparing him to other figures, like Warsman, he is about a head taller than them. I mean, he's just a bigger character. But even as a figure itself, he's actually not that big. He's only 4 inches, or about 4 inches. So if you put him next to like a 3.75 4-inch figure, he's the same size. He does look really cool though. I mean, he has a really, I love his look. It's just so cartoonish and wacky. He has a cool pose actually. I like the way his arms are kind of like, I don't know what he's doing, but he's ready for some action. Like his head, he can sort of nod with his head like that, tilt it back, boom, 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 boom. Oh, I guess it's supposed to be his bolt charging attack like that. He's got an ab crunch like this. I don't like this part though because his stomach just clearly shows like that. It's just so bizarre looking. There's like a big gaping hole in his stomach. That kind of sucks. You should be able to rotate it as well, like this. From the arms, you can kind of twist it. It feels so flimsy, like it's about to come off. From the elbows, you can rotate it as well. From the wrist, you can rotate. And his legs, again, the way that it's positioned, the way it's shaped, you can only rotate it from the actual surface of his waist. So the way it's cut is so weird like that. So there's really, it's almost like there's no point of actually rotating his legs because they're so awkward anyway. There's a separation in his thighs. You can see there's a cut there. You can actually rotate that as well. And from his knees, you can sort of rotate it, but again, it's really awkward because it's not a straight. It's not like an actual bendable knee. It's not like those G.I. Joe figures where you can actually move it back and forth and then make them bend at the knees and stuff. It's very just awkward looking. You can kind of rotate his foot, and there's holes at the bottom of his feet for the stand. Unfortunately, he actually has a stand. It's ironically the smallest one. Basically this rock-looking thing. It actually looks pretty cool, except I tried putting him on the stand itself. It only has one stand for 1 foot, and it actually got stuck. The thing that would pop out where you can actually stick it got stuck in here, so now it's broken. So this stand is basically useless. Man, that sucks, man. It's like the way it's made, the plastic is just garbage. The quality of the plastic sucks. Like, the detail is cool, but I don't know, man. These Japanese action figures are whack, man. They're terrible. I mean, they look cool, but the quality of the plastic is just awful. Last figure we're gonna take a look at is Robin Mask, and he's from England. Now, he used to be a villain, and I guess he became one of the good guys, and he has moves like Tower Bridge and Robin Special. Now, he has a pretty cool pose like that, his arms crossed, and he's standing on this really pretty cool looking stand. And then you have this green guy. I'm sure this guy is one of the other characters, but... And then you have this, like, spray of water. Looks like he's coming out of the ocean. That's pretty cool. Alright, let's take a look at the figure. Again, I mean, the figure looks sweet. He's got really cool detail. He's got the bluish look. Actually, it's closer to the anime than the manga. I believe in the manga, he has flesh-colored skin. I like the shininess of his upper armor and his helmet. You can rotate his head like this, side to side, and then... But his articulation is pretty bad. He has kind of an ab crunch going on. His legs sort of rotate. And his foot. And you should be able to also twist his leg at the thigh, and that's it. He can't even bend his knees. And his arms are the worst because they just look like... I mean, look at that. Again, because the way they posed his figure, there's... Oh, and his left hand just came off. You can pop that in. Back in, there you go. So he's just sort of meant to stay in this position right here because you can't really pose him any differently. Because his arms would come off. There's no point of even allowing his hands to actually move. They might as well have made it a single plastic and actually, you know, not have it disconnected. The articulation is very limited. It's very awkward, and the quality of the plastic is bad. They break easily, so the joints, if they break, you're pretty much screwed. I mean, unless you use some kind of epoxy or something. They also have, I mean, this is the stand, and it does look really cool, though. I don't know. It's very cartoonish. I love the color. You got a mix of white and blue and green and orange. It's really vibrant and colorful. I like it. Okay, so let's take a look at the figures. Which one are the best figs? Okay. Well, Kinnikuman's leg broke, and I don't really like his design to begin with. I think he looks really corny, so he sucks. We have Ramen Man. He would have been cool, you know, he's a decent looking enough character, but his ponytail came off, so forget that. Now it's down to these guys. Warsman actually looks pretty cool. I mean, he, out of all the figures, he probably has the best combination of detail, articulation, and style. I mean, I like his claw and everything. Buffalo Man looks pretty cool too. He's the biggest out of all of them, and he does look like a really, you know, unique looking action figure. I like his color scheme, and he stands out of all the figures. And then you have Robin Mask. He looks pretty cool. I mean, he's got a really unique look to him, but he's just not. His articulation sucks. So, all right. So the two best figures, in my opinion, would be Buffalo Man and Warsman from this particular series of figures from Kinnikuman. And as far as the stands, talk about the stands. These three are the best, hands down. Buffalo Man stand isn't very good, so because it broke and it only has one actual foot that you can place it on, so screw that. Warsman's, it's not even really a stand, it's more of a, it's just like a whirlwind or a screwdriver effect around his body, but it's okay, but it sort of gets in the way and it's not really a stand. The only three actual stands that I think are cool are these ones. I think all three are pretty decent. I actually like all three. If I had to choose which one, just one, probably this one. I just love the dragon design, so this would be Ramen Man's stand. It's just really, really cool looking. Alright, so that's it for my review of these Kinnikuman action figures. Some of them are decent, a couple of them are, I think, are worth checking out at least, but the rest of them, just terrible. You gotta really watch out for the actual quality of these figures. They fall apart easily, bad articulation. They're pose pieces, you know, they're statues more than anything. You just, you know, they're display items. You don't really play with them or move them around. There's a risk of breaking them and, you know, disjointed figures and actually breaking the pieces, and you can't put them back together. Honestly, because they broke so much, I can't recommend them. I gotta give them a thumbs down. Alright, so that's it for this episode of the Review Space, and go check out the rest of the channel. More reviews to come, alright? So until next time, ciao.